I call on Government Order of the Day number 5.
Civil Defence Emergency Management Amendment Bill, second reading.
The Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Acting Minister of Civil Defence, I move that the Civil Defence Emergency Management Amendment Bill be now read a second time. This bill is the latest step in ongoing work to improve our civil defence emergency management system. Historically, most attention has been given to response. This bill makes it very clear that recovery is also important. Indeed, all the 4 Rs, risk reduction, readiness, response and recovery, are important to help minimise the consequences of emergencies on our communities. The bill addresses the lack of focus on recovery in the existing legislative framework. It focuses primarily on recovery from New Zealand's most frequent emergencies, those that are small to moderate scale emergencies, such as the Lower North Island and South Dunedin floods last year. This bill strengthens the recovery framework and the arrangements to support communities to get back on their feet as quickly as possible. When there is an emergency, over time the focus switches from response to recovery, and we need to better manage that transition. The bill provides powers that can be used to support the transition from response to recovery from a national emergency. For example, the bill provides that the Minister can give notice of a national transition period. It addresses the issue that often there is a need for powers after the state of emergency has been lifted. For example, there may be places that are still unsafe and debris to be cleared. The current framework encourages keeping the state of emergency in place longer than is necessary, simply so civil defence and emergency management groups can continue to access powers. Keeping a state of emergency in place when communities are out of the crisis mode sends the wrong message to communities about what is happening. The bill strengthens the legislative framework for recovery by introducing provisions that provide a mandate for roles and responsibilities that apply for the duration of the recovery from an emergency, strengthen recovery planning, and enable a seamless transition from the response to an emergency through to the initial recovery period by ensuring that appropriate and effective powers and arrangements are available. In terms of roles and responsibilities, the bill largely mirrors for recovery the existing approach of the Act to planning for and declaring a state of emergency. The bill provides authority and mandate for roles and responsibilities during transition periods. The roles of group, local and national recovery manager provide for directing, managing and coordinating recovery activities during the transition period. Their role, functions and powers are set out in the bill. During the development of these proposals, most civil defence and emergency management groups supported these roles. The bill strengthens recovery planning. Originally, when the bill was introduced, it had a requirement for civil defence and emergency management groups to develop a strategic recovery plan. This is no longer considered necessary. Civil defence and emergency management groups need to plan across all 4 Rs, and I therefore agree with the committee's recommendations to make it a function of civil defence and emergency management groups to plan for recovery rather than prepare a separate recovery plan. The bill provides for local and national transition periods. When there is an emergency, over time the focus switches from response to recovery, and we need to better manage that transition. Like declaring a state of local emergency, a local transition notice can be given by a person appointed by a civil defence and emergency management group or mayor. In exceptional circumstances, the Minister may also give notice of a local transition period. A local transition lasts for up to 28 days but can be extended. It's important that civil defence and emergency management groups have access to the powers they need for recovery. We expect that in most cases 28 days would be long enough. A national transition notice lasts for up to 90 days, but transition notice lasts for up to 90 days but can be extended. Only the Minister can give such a notice and must advise the House as soon as practicable when this occurs. The Government Administration Committee received submissions that suggested that the Minister should undertake some form of local consultation when making a decision to give a notice of a local transition period. However, there may be circumstances where this is impractical. The power of a Minister to issue a local transition notice is only likely to be used in exceptional circumstances. The CDEM framework is based on local communities acting in an emergency. It is act locally. The bill reinforces the act locally by requiring CDM groups to plan for and manage recovery. I agree with the committee's proposal that where the Minister intends to make, extend or terminate a local transition period, then they must seek and consider comment from any affected CDM group and the Mayor or any affected local authority. There are some caveats set out in the bill to recognise that it might not always be practical to engage, or the urgency of the situation requires the notice of transition to be given immediately. No doubt today in the House some members might suggest that the bill should provide for co-governance before the Minister gives notice of a local transition period. This is a process where central and local government jointly make decisions. We strongly support central and local government working together, but as I noted before, the Minister giving notice of a local transition period is only expected to be used in exceptional circumstances. For example, I'm sure the member will correct it if that's the case. For example, it could be where the local arrangements are not working because key decision makers are not available. In this type of scenario, it is prudent that the Minister is able to issue a local transition notice. I would stress, however, that this would only be a last resort. I'm aware that there have been some suggestions that there is never likely to be a situation of urgency. However, recent experience shows that in each emergency there are unique features and one never knows the circumstances that might present. Therefore, the legislation should be flexible. Finally, the bill provides for a permanent legislative authority. This mechanism strengthens the government's commitment to reimburse local authorities' expenses incurred during an emergency where they meet the government reimbursement policy. It removes the situation where expenditure may be incurred, but there's no appropriation for that expenditure. I want to take this opportunity to thank civil defence and emergency management groups around New Zealand for the great work that they do. They work with dedication for the benefit of our communities. In developing the proposals in this bill, civil defence and emergency management groups were generally supportive of the proposals because they recognise the importance of recovery for their communities. I thank them for their input on developing this bill. I also want to thank the submitters. A number of changes were made to the bill to respond to the points they made. And of course I want to thank the members of the Government Administration Committee under its solid chairmanship of the Honourable Ruth Dyson for its consideration of the bill. As a result of the Select Committee process, the bill returns to the House with a number of amendments that support the bill's core objectives of better managing the transition from response to recovery. I also want to thank my colleagues from across the House who I understand have pledged their cross-party support for the bill. And finally, Mr Speaker, I want to acknowledge the Honourable Nikki Kay. I have every confidence that she would want to be standing here reading this bill instead of me, and I look very much forward to the time when that occurs again. I commend the bill to the House.